I know we all look strange to ourselves in this format, don't we? It's kind of weird.
East Side Brady Bunch.
The East Side Brady Bunch. That's so wrong. All right, so here on the Brady Bunch, on the East Side, we've got lots of folks. There's Jack coming on from Catalyst. Hey, Jack. We've got folks from nonprofits on the call. Wave if you're from a nonprofit. There you go. There's some waivers. We've got folks who are from retail. I'm from a nonprofit. We've got folks who are from retail who run businesses like restaurants, Alinda and Matt's Coffee Shop. Wave if you're in retail or you're running a cafe. That's Alinda and Matt in particular. We've got folks from government in the city. There, Matt Wave. Folks from government in the city, thanks for being on the call with us. And some folks wave there. Got district councils as well and their representation. That's Betsy from the Southeast community. Hi, Betsy. And then folks from banks and financial institutions as well. So give a wave if you're from a bank or financial institution. Banks, Mark Gallagher from Gallagher Financial. And then, Chris, we didn't see you wave from the firefighter because your video's not on.
You don't want to see me right now.
I'm gonna mute everybody right now, but I'm gonna unmute you. Okay.
Okay. Thanks. So then we also have a few folks that I don't know. We've got Steve Ledeen, the president. I do know Steve. Steve Ledeen, the president of ESABA, has a law practice, and I think we've covered everyone except from St. Paul Port Authority. Hey there. So yeah, so this is who's on the call at the moment. And then we've got a few folks that I don't know. Mason, I think I remember you.
Mason works with me at Rainbow International Restoration of St. Paul. And then Shanta is the gentleman from New York, actually, from that I've met on LinkedIn. So he's joined the call. We got somebody all the way from New York.
Well, that's great. That's okay, terrific. And then we have someone who is called in who doesn't have a name up, 651-434-9953. Will you unmute that person, William?
Sure. Let's see here. They are unmuted. You can speak.
Hi, this is Yolanda from Parents in Partnership.
Hi, Yolanda. Welcome. So you would be a nonprofit educational institution.
All right, Yolanda, you're muted again.
Okay, terrific. So, and is Shanta your friend, William?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. Okay, so I'm just going to run you through how we're going to do this agenda, basically, and welcome everybody to the call. One of the things that you'll all need to do is to open the chat for this meeting. So if you just wave your mouse around in the browser bar, you'll see at the bottom, there are a bunch of navigation buttons, and one of them is More. Under More, you'll see Chat, and that you want to get the chat up so that you can see the chat going. I can see participants. Oh, I just turned my chat off is what happened. Okay, so in the chat is where you can go ahead, and I see Stephanie's posted to the chat already. In the chat's where you can ask a question and kind of call attention to yourself so that we can unmute you for a question. That makes sense. Does everybody get the chat up? Wave if you got the chat up. Okay, great. That's everybody I can see, pretty much. All right, terrific. Here's a basic look at our agenda. We wanted to post this, and I also sent this to you, but just running down quickly. We've done a little bit of who's on the call. We're going to talk a little bit now in the first part of the call about known resources, things everyone should apply for if eligible, things we've figured out there, and in particular, we've got BMOA from one of ESABA's sponsors, Sunrise Bank, who I've heard great things about what Sunrise is doing right now and was recommended to be on the call. And so B, thanks so much for joining. To talk a little bit about tips on the application process for those resources that are out there that we know of right now and that we can work on. And then we'll take your questions about that application process or other thoughts about resources, and then a section about unmet needs. What do we see that's not being addressed? What do we need help with out there regarding resources and the programs that are available? Then we'll shift gears and talk a little bit about workforce. And the reason why workforce is on the agenda in part is that a lot of the effort right now in relief is to keep employees in place. And we'll talk a little bit about what that kind of means and what it looks like and how important it is. And one of the things I heard, before this crisis, and we've heard a lot on the east side, is probably the most valuable asset for any business is its employees. Besides, like not every place owns their building, not every program, has assets, but that the key number one asset are the people that work in our businesses and in our nonprofits. So we're going to talk a little bit about workforce. And similarly, we'll hear from Rachel Speck on that issue, and then have time for questions and unmet needs regarding that. And then we want to have a little section at the top of the hour called New Business as Usual. That's a little bit about what you've had to figure out to keep business going and challenges you're having with that or things you're trying to solve. And we'll hear a little bit about some of your good innovations and partly, what does the way forward look like? And I've got a question for us in general at the end as well from the St. Paul Area Chamber of Commerce that B has asked me to float to our members. So, and we'll wrap it up with like, was this fun? Should we do this again? When should we do this again? What should we talk about next time? And talk a little bit about that. Sound okay? I see you nodding. I love that. All right, great. So I want to start with B and just ask for you to take us on a brief tour of the tips on the application process, especially for some of the programs that we've heard are available for most of the businesses. All the businesses are on this call, as far as I can see from what I know of you, and tips on the application process for the SBA stuff and the PPP, as well as what you know about deed and deed applications and the new St. Paul Bridge Fund. We can talk about that too.
Sure. Well, Paris, first of all, thank you for, inviting me and having me on this call. I'll do my best to kind of shed some light on what's available. For many of you who don't know me, I think I know a couple of you, but for many of you who don't know me, I'm B. Moore, and I am one of the Vice President of Commercial Lenders over at Sunrise Banks. And, right now we're dealing with some very difficult times. And so we're just kind of doing our best part in trying to help some of the small businesses in our community survive. And so I'm going to join you guys today and talk a little bit about what programs are available out there, most specifically probably the PPP loan, because that has consumed us for the past week now. But I'll briefly touch on some of the other ones just because those are not my area of expertise, but I just definitely want to let everybody know that they are available for all eligible businesses. So I'll just kind of start there. With everything that's been ongoing and the impact of the COVID-19, all small businesses, locally and nationally have been severely impacted. And so recently with the CARES Act that was rolled out, the thing that's really bogged us down the past week here is the Paycheck Protection Program loan. And I don't know how much everybody knows about it, but I'll just give a quick oversight of it was basically that CARES Act, there was about $350 billion that was allocated for a loan fund. So essentially, all eligible small businesses can apply to SBA participating banks. Sunrise Banks is a preferred SBA lender, and so that's kind of why we've taken it on head on. But essentially, how it works is for any eligible business, you can complete an application requesting 2.5 times your average. Well, let me step back. Basically, you can apply for a loan that's calculated and determined by your average monthly payroll. How the average monthly payroll is determined is basically what your average monthly payroll was in 2019 for existing businesses. And if you were a newer business, then basically the average monthly payroll of the months of operations for your business. So what that means is that once you come up with that number, then you can multiply that by 2.5 times and request a loan in that amount. The neat thing about this loan is that it is a forgivable loan. So which means that if you, just about every business is eligible, but once you have been approved for the loan and you utilize the proceeds according to the eligibility and the requirements put in place, the full amount of the loan can be forgiven, which means truly just gone. So you don't have to pay that back. And so the restriction on that is that once approved, you have an 8-week period to utilize those proceeds. And a quick summary of the eligible uses of the proceeds are to pay payroll, so to pay your employees, so salaries. Then other items such as rent qualify, other items such as utilities qualify, employee benefits that qualifies. So again, just to kind of summarize, that's a new loan that's 100% guaranteed by the SBA, fully forgiven, and the loan amount is determined by your average payroll in 2019. So that's the quick summary on that. The loan application itself, it's a really quick 2-page SBA application. There's really not much to it. I think the biggest challenge people are having when they're applying is that you have to provide the verification documents of how you determine your average monthly payroll. And so that's where the hiccup is. A lot of times people are uncertain what to provide. And so what we have told people is that, so I guess I just step back to myself and say that if you were to apply through me, these are essentially the items that I typically ask for to consider it in a complete application package. So you have to first complete that loan application. It's an SBA loan application. Like I said, it's a quick 2-pager. And then you also have to complete what we call a certificate of beneficial ownership. That's something that's kind of mandated by the SBA. Whichever bank that you're working with will have that form for you. The third item is to provide a verification of how of what your average monthly payroll is. This includes things such as your 940 tax statement, your 941 quarterly tax statement, payroll summary from your whoever does your books. You know, it could be from your accountant, from your bookkeeper, things like that. In addition, I forgot to mention that other items that are inclusive of payroll include employee health benefits paid, and then other items such as FICA or FUTA, SUTA, things like that. And so if you are choosing to also include that in your average monthly payroll, you have to provide documentation of that as well. And so once you have all that stuff, the other items that you will need is the articles of organization or the articles of incorporation for your business to show that it is indeed, registered with the Secretary of State. You gotta make sure that your business is in active standing. And then finally, driver's license. If you're new to the bank, then driver's license is for all business owners who own at least 20% in that business. And that, in summary, that's kind of all you need. And then it's really, I wouldn't say it's a quick process, but because banks are so overwhelmed right now, everybody's just doing their best to try to get this out. So I'll stop there with that one to see if anybody has any questions on that one before moving on to some of the other ones.
Again, if you guys have questions, please put them in the chat box here. So we have a question from Randy. Do you need to have a business account with Sunrise to apply for SBA or PPP?
No, you do not. We are actually taking applications from just about anyone. I think if you are an existing customer, the process is quicker, just obviously because we already have most of your information. But if you are a new customer to the bank, then keep in mind you will have to provide all the information that I just stated there, because without it, it stalls the process. The application just sits in the pending, and then we have to kick it back out, and they have to reach out to you. And so that really, really slows the process.
All right, we have a question here from Dia Vane. Can the application be completed online?
Unfortunately, at this time, it cannot. You can, I want to say that you can reach out to, we have a hotline, and I apologize, I do not have the hotline available. We actually, Sunrise Banks, again, because we were so overwhelmed, we actually set up a hotline specific to this program. But you can pretty much call into any branch, and we can email you that application. And once you complete it, you can just submit it to, we have a designated application email that's where it goes, and it gets loaded, and then we take it off and we start working it.
All right, we have another question here from Randy Bloom, I believe. His question is, what is a typical lead time to receiving the loan?
So I wish I had a great answer for that. Unfortunately, I don't, because we are just so overwhelmed with the number of applications that right now, from an SBA perspective, as long as the application is fully completed and we are finding no errors. So if we determine that the number that the loan amount you're requesting matches up with the verification documents, then we move it on. at which point in time we submit it into the SBA and we obtain an approval from the SBA. If we have a complete application and we can get to it, keep in mind right now that our queue is just huge. I think this loan started last Friday, and since that time we have about 1,000 applicants. So you have to keep that in mind. And so we're working them as fast as we can. Once they get to that SBA approval process and you're assigned an SBA number, you are technically approved. From the closing and the dispersing, that'll come after the fact. Because in all honesty right now, I think we're waiting for final guidance from the SBA on how to close this loan and how to deliver the proceeds.
Okay, we have another question here from Matthew, I believe Grasky. The question is, B, I need verification as to what I have heard as rumors for a PPP loan fine print. I heard that applying for PPP or receiving PPP will disallow a small business or to be eligible for other federal aid and loans. Is this true or incorrect? Can I be approved for deed and also PPP loan?
My understanding is that yes, you can be approved for both. You just have to certify that the proceeds are being utilized for something different. So if you're receiving proceeds from deed to pay for your salaries of your employees, you cannot also receive a loan through the PPP program and utilize it for the same purpose.
Okay, another question here, is the PPP available to nonprofits and faith organizations? That question was from Jane Prince.
Yep. So typically, standard SBA guidelines do not allow for nonprofit organizations or religious organizations, but with this PPP program, the SBA has made an exception. And so religious organizations along with 501c3 nonprofit organizations actually qualify for this one.
I have a question for you myself. Is there a limit to how big or small the business can be to apply for one of these loans?
Yep, there is a limit. That's a great question. There's a maximum size limit. So the maximum size limit is any business with 500 employees or less would be eligible.
Hey, is that everybody on the call? Just wave if you have 500 or fewer employees.
Yeah, so pretty much, yep. Exactly, Paris. I think we're gonna be hard pressed to find any small business here that has more than 500 employees.
Yep.
No.
Do we have any other questions before B goes into further detail in the second half of his lecture here?
I just wanted to say I put in the chat the Sunrise Bank hotline, B, that you mentioned. I just went on your website and typed in Payment Protection Program hotline, and so there it is with the PPP at Sunrise Bank.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Appreciate that.
Matt, I'm going to unmute you really quick so you can clarify your most recent question. It says, further question, can a business be in hot water? I'm sure, what are you asking there, Matt?
That would be great. Curious to the fact of previous employees, if it is their desire to not come back to work immediately due to uncomfortability with the climate, would PPP still be the best, or would that not be a good option and we could be in hot water with complying with the program if, our staff on their own didn't want to come back to work right away?
Sure. That's a great question. And so this is the second piece of the PPP. I know there's been so much information out there, and I do apologize trying to quickly summarize it. But how it essentially works is that because it's based on your previous year's payroll, so you qualify for that loan amount. In order to achieve the full forgiveness, you have to utilize it to pay that payroll in an 8-week span. How it works is if you do not utilize the proceeds according to what they're supposed to be, then the amount actually is just rolled into a loan that is carried by the bank and which you would now have to pay back. The great thing about that loan is that the interest rate is at 1%. In all honesty, the terms on the loan, I know it's been ever changing. I know that some I've heard that they've thought about doing 10-year terms, and now most recently I believe that it would be rolled into a 2-year loan. But in all honesty, I see that changing because I feel like guidance on this loan has been changing by the day, to be honest.
All right.
And so I would say overall, it's advantageous to apply for the loan, regardless if you you find out that you didn't use it for eligible purposes, because there's really kind of no restriction. Where the eligible usage comes into play is that at the end of those 8 weeks, it's kind of up to you to ask for that forgiveness from the bank. And so what happens is that you actually have to come to the bank and provide documentation verification that you indeed utilize those proceeds as originally intended. And if you did not, that's where those proceeds are rolled over. You know, and I think kind of broader picture, I think the SBA, because one would ask that, well, if you're applying for 2.5 times your payroll and you're only allowed 8 weeks to utilize it, wouldn't that only cover 2 months of your payroll? So you'd be left with that half, right? And that, again, that half, how I kind of explain to people is they're giving you that leeway to utilize that half to cover the other expenses, you know, like the rent, the utilities, things like that. And, you know, honestly, some companies may not necessarily need to do that. And so that might be utilized as working capital in general, just to help your business as maybe it gets back to normal, or just to expand and do other things. There's really not a hard restriction on it. Again, I think the catch is just that if you don't use it as originally determined, then it's rolled into that loan.
All right. So do you want to go on do you have more to talk about beyond this, B?
You know, I figured I'd start with that one because that's the one I know the most about. And in all honesty, that was the hot topic, because I tell you guys, I kid you not, that my phone has rung off the hook since we started accepting applications. I get a new email, I feel like every 5 minutes. And I all I can do is apologize to customers and prospects that we're doing our best to respond and communicate with everyone and try to process these as fast as we can.
Hey, B, I have a question about this that business brought up earlier. If they already have a bank or a banker that is one of the approved PPP bankers, should they, you know, and they haven't gotten a response back from that person, should they bail out and come to you? I mean, I think this is people are just making inquiries and trying to figure out where they go to get this done. Has created lots of applications. I know this is true about the deed programs. Our deed programs have gotten lots of applications, and lots of people have submitted multiple applications. How do you feel about kind of that situation?
You know, I think that's what I'm finding that a lot of people are doing, just because fear of the money running out from a timing perspective. And in all honesty, I have to agree with that, because as of yesterday, preliminary numbers indicate that about 100 billion has been accounted for already from this 350 billion of allocation. And so I think that's the biggest fear everybody has right now, is that the money's going to run out before their application is processed. And so there's no restriction on where you can or can't apply. And unfortunately, many banks are handling this differently. So for example, like the Wells Fargo, and I can only talk about like Wells Fargo US Bank, because from what I've heard from some customers that have reached out to me, is that they are no longer accepting any more applications because they've hit their threshold on the number of applicants and the dollar threshold that they've allocated to this program. In addition, there's been many local, other local community banks that have sent out emails to their customers that said, if you haven't applied for this now, unfortunately, we're no longer accepting any applications. Sunrise Banks, we are actually on the opposite side of that. We're actually accepting applications even currently. And there's a bigger mindset behind that. And this is just kind of like the opinion of our owner, David Riding. And what's kind of being passed around is that we feel that we should do the best of our ability to serve the community. And we will continue to process these until proceeds run out. And even with that being said, I think the expectation, I mean, obviously nobody knows for sure, but the expectation is that right now, Congress is already talking about kicking around the idea of approving another 250 billion for a second allocation of funding towards this program. And in my past experience in dealing with the SBA and disaster relief loans, I've seen this before. I want to say back in 2008, 2009, something very similar happened where there was a disaster relief that came out at that time. And the first wave of funding did come out, and it was exhausted in almost half the time that they expected it to be. And they did come out with a second round of funding. I would say anything above and beyond that, I would be unsure of, but I'm pretty confident that a second round of funding will follow this.
Yeah, I think so B, it sounds like in answer to the question, if you haven't gotten a call back from your bank currently, pick a different one. I mean, go ahead and call Sunrise and see if you can get an application in there. Until you hear back confirmation that your banker's working with you to put in an application, we should keep trying, huh?
Correct. Because I mean, once it goes into the SBA queue and the SBA processing, you can only qualify for one of these loans.
Gotcha.
And so it's almost like at the end of the day, no harm, no foul, because if you apply to me, you apply to somebody else, and whoever processes you first, you're in the system. So if somebody else got to it before me and I try to put it in there, it's going to kick out. I'm going to reach out to you and say, hey, it looks like you already have one. And at which point in time you say, hey, B, thanks, I'm just going to withdraw my application.
Makes sense. Okay. So those are two of the big ones that ESABA has really kind of been focused on: the SBA loan and the PPP that we've kind of talked about. Does that make sense for folks? You should apply for that emergency, the EIDL.
Yeah.
Loan program, and you should apply for the PPP.
Yep.
And then I know the deed program was intended to be a stopgap for people, like to get money moving quickly. But I think you've explained that pretty well. Like, well, if you've got other costs to apply it to, yeah, apply for a deed loan too, but you can't apply it to the same bunch of expenses that these other loans are for. That makes sense. And then the St. Paul Bridge Fund, thank you, city council members and St. Paul folks who are St. Paul city folks that are on the call. Thank you very much, Councilmember Yang's office and Councilmember Prince's office. St. Paul Bridge Fund is for-profit businesses only. Small businesses, $7,500 grants. Apply now through April 19th. Councilmember Prince, do you want to say anything about anything you've heard about the application process and tips there?
I am not, what I heard about the family program was that we received 1,300 applications already. As far as the business program, I'm not sure of that number, but I think that they will be, well, I shouldn't come up with details that I'm not certain of. I think that PED will be taking them as they come in and working to see whether the Bridge Fund is the right program or another program, or at least working together on the variety of programs that are available. But I should probably get some more accurate information, say much more about it.
Okay.
Council member, I had the wonderful opportunity to sit in on a call this morning with the East team to get a little bit of an update from Mary Rick in the PED office about that. So just peeking at my notes, it looks like, you get overwhelmed with information, so I don't want to mix it up with another one of the programs I took notes on. But looking at it, let's see here. I believe they received 600 applications. It looks like, here we go. The application launched last night at 6 p.m. So far, to date, as of my meeting this afternoon, they had 1,474 resident applications so far. And the average household size has been about 4. And let's see here. There's been 649 business applications so far. Which is a good response. They're still holding and wanting to get more applications in. It's my understanding that there will be on April 20th, there's a window of time in which you can actually apply for this, a 10-day period, an application period on this. And on April 20th, depending on the funds that are within the fund they have, it's my understanding that they may have raised some additional funds through philanthropy to add to the to the pot of dollars in which they can distribute, that there'll be perhaps a lottery. They'll hold a lottery depending on, the need greater than what may be available there. So that's the update I had gotten as of this afternoon.
Thank you, Tanya. And here's my understanding. So this is kind of nice clarification too, to just ask. that $7,500, that does not have to be committed to payroll. It does not have to be in an 8-week time frame. It does not have to be, to keep my pets alive and at my house. Whatever. I don't have any pets. Anyway, so it's an unrestricted St. Paul businesses apply for this. We're all affected kind of spirit of this. Am I right about that, council members? I'm seeing nodding.
Mhm. Yes, correct. I was peeking at their eligibility requirements. You have to be located in the city of St. Paul and operate out of a physical establishment, be a for-profit business, be a legal entity registered with Minnesota Secretary of State, have less than $2 million of gross revenue, annual gross revenue. Have operated and conducted business at the same location within the city of St. Paul for at least 3 months. And then it says operate a retail-oriented style business. Let's see here. Have revenues that are primarily from sales to the general public rather than business-to-business transactions. Be independently owned. Have 4 or fewer locations within St. Paul. Let's see here. And let's see here. It might be good to say who's not eligible for the program rather than, because it's rather long list, but commercial or residential real estate businesses are not allowed for the program. Subsidiaries or affiliates or business dominance in its field, including chain or franchise businesses, are not allowed. And businesses that conduct most of their operations remotely, independent consultants, and residential-based businesses are not allowed.
Okay.
One thing that I thought was fantastic also in this, the grant application itself will not ask about immigration or documentation status, or immigration documentation status will have no impact on this eligibility.
Yep, that is great.
Real quickly, in our chat box, Jenna has put in, must submit bridge fund application by 5 p.m. on Sunday, April 19th. And then Jane also put in bridge fund must have been impacted. The person must have been impacted, the business must have been impacted by COVID-19.
Okay, let's talk a little bit, let's shift the gears and talk a little bit about workforce. I will say this also, St. Paul Area Chamber of Commerce sent out a blog that had 4 other programs, SBA and other federal related programs that they thought applied to small businesses. I will put those up in our news blog so that you can keep checking on things that might make sense for your business in terms of these resources. Let's talk a little bit about workforce and kind of shift the gears. Workforce folks have had opportunities, many folks have had an opportunity to apply for unemployment. Many workers have not had that opportunity and not had that ability. I've asked Rachel, and we're lucky to have Rachel Speck on the call from the Eastside Employment Exchange to talk a little bit about the context for workers right now, and then we can have some of your questions and your sense of what's going on with my worker? Matt, where are my workers? Matt asked a great question earlier. Hey, I've decided that it's in my interest to stay home. I don't really want to get fired. I do want to apply for unemployment. How does that impact what my business can do to both support me and retain me? So Rachel, will you talk a little bit about what you're seeing out there on the landscape?
Yeah, great. Thank you. So as Per said, I'm Rachel Speck. I work with a collaborative of organizations on the East Side called the Eastside Employment Exchange. And I can jump further into that, but just know that our sole purpose is raising the prosperity of the East Side. And one of the ways that we do that is by supporting employment and retention of East Siders. And so we're really stoked and excited to be able to partner with ESABA, especially in that work. So I think we all know it's been a really tumultuous time right now for everyone, and is likely impacting, in addition to your business, also your employees, both personally and then in their work. In our work as the exchange, we've certainly been fielding a lot more calls from folks who have been laid off and are newly seeking new employment, as well as folks who had already been looking for work and are now grappling with some more basic needs challenges. So a lot of calls about figuring out where to get food from, especially how to apply for healthcare if they're now newly unemployed. And so just some of those basic needs that are impacted directly by attachment to work that folks are having. And as that's shifting for them, they're having to kind of re-navigate all of that. And so our members are definitely supporting folks in this moment in navigating all of that and continuing to look for work, because there are still some places that are hiring right now. We also know, though, that for those of you who have been able to retain your employees during this time, your relationship with them has definitely changed, because you're probably more likely than not interacting with them, at least more commonly virtually than in person right now. And know that that's, changes everything from how are you checking in on your employees and their ability to deliver their services and products to you as their employer right now, as well as any family thing. I know a lot of folks with kids are trying to figure out the home teaching shenanigans right now. I know Paris is. And so you likely also want to figure out how to support them. So I would just say a couple of things before I kind of ask you all some questions about what you're seeing. One is that one resource that is available 24/7, is available to anyone, and is available statewide, is United Way 211. So if you don't know about this resource, it's a really fantastic resource available to all of us, and is available both online and over the phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And certainly available in Hmong, Spanish, Somali, Karen. I think they actually advertise that they can talk to someone in any language that they would like to be talked to in. So it is actually an information and referral line. I think I forgot that key piece of information. So for anyone looking for resources about anything, you can call United Way 211 and get connected to the right supports for you. I will pop in the website into the chat box here shortly. Again, it's available. There's no restrictions on who can access it and who can't. It's available to anyone. And it is 100% confidential. So none of the information that is shared with callers or that callers share is ever available to anyone else. So the other thing I would offer is that if you currently have employees who reside on the East Side who seem to be struggling and maybe you're not the best position to support them in this time, you can certainly refer them to us at the Exchange. All of our members provide direct social services to residents of the East Side, and certainly are, as I said, helping folks navigate their newly shifting realities towards any community resources that they may need. Absolutely helping apply for unemployment insurance if that's relevant to the job seeker. And so I'll leave my contact information in the chat box so you can reach out to me or have folks contact me directly and can make sure that they get connected with a social service organization local that can support them in this time. So I think that's kind of my off the bat resources for you all to be able to offer. I'd love to hear now from folks kind of what other resources would be helpful for you. You all are connecting with your employees more frequently than I have been, obviously. So we'd just love to hear what would be helpful for you all. I'm happy to provide solutions I know about or go do a little digging and find the right resource for you as well.
And if you have a question, please put it in the chat box. We can't see everybody if you raise your hand because there's so many people on the call. Some screens are going to be like what we'd have to slide over. So you can just, put something in the chat box and we'll unmute you if we need to, or you can just type your question in there.
Oh, wonderful.
No questions?
Yeah, so I'll articulate one here, I guess. One of the things that I've heard folks ask about is hey, I've got employees who are not coming to work. This is from a restaurant. I've got employees that are not coming to work anymore because they don't feel safe to come to work. I'm processing payroll. Should I process them as sick time? Do I process that as vacation time? Do I process that as full time? How do I work on supporting my workers in the right way at this time? Has anybody else kind of dealt with that and worked on that kind of issue?
See here, looks like Randy had a comment here. Randy, I'm gonna unmute you. I can't unmute you for some reason. Oh, there you go.
How's that?
We can hear you.
You're on.
No, I was just gonna make a comment that one way we've been able to retain our valued staff members is we're actually contracting out our professional staff to businesses who might need some interim help here in the COVID crisis. And then we've been able to pay all their wages, benefits, et cetera, and just simply invoice per hour for various needs, primarily manufacturing. We're fortunate to have some connections with some businesses that are essential right now in manufacturing, and that's really been helpful. So just wanted to share that.
Thanks, Randy.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
About workers. The other thing that I've heard, and I'm curious about, I'm not exactly sure how to ask this, but workers have certain protections if they have paid into unemployment, and I imagine all businesses that have workers on payroll are doing that. I know you are, but workers who don't have documents are not eligible for unemployment benefits through our state. And so undocumented workers are more distressed now, I would imagine, than ever. Is there any interest in working on, or I don't know what kinds of resources are available for folks that their employer paid in to unemployment for them, but they're not eligible to receive unemployment benefits? Is that something that's happening out there? I'm curious about what people know about that and resources available.
Linda, do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I happen to have a couple of employees that they're seeking for asylum, and they still in process right now, and they're in that situation right now because they cannot apply for any kind of insurance. Sadly, I'm a small business that I don't provide insurance, like health insurance for them, and they're unable to get any kind of benefits out there right now. That's why one of the reasons that I keep my business open, in order to have something to offer to them, and and help the business as well. But I think most of the reason, my biggest reason was them.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Thanks.
I do know too, there is so the city of Minneapolis, which doesn't apply for probably most of any of your employees, but they are putting together a fund that undocumented families can apply for support for. And also I know that the Minnesota Immigrant Families Fund is a grassroots fundraising effort to support immigrant families who don't qualify for these governmental supports. And so I will grab the link here. I found the GoFundMe. I got to find the website where it exists as well. And I'll share that in the chat box too.
Okay, that's good. I know that there was some interest from some, Henry, do you want to respond to this?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I know Clues just got some funding too through the Minnesota Council on Foundations. I believe it was $400,000. And that's part of the work that they want to do. And as well as Navigate Minnesota is doing another go-to fund. LEDC also received $100,000 of funding, but it's going to be focused on, undocumented business owners. And as you all know, as much as I want to make it more public, LEDC, just internally, our clients that are members of ours, we wouldn't even be able to support all of them. So that's the hard part for me. I've been getting calls from many folks, unfortunately from across the state, and I mean, if I just focus on giving just our members, 5 to 10 grand, we wouldn't be able to give them all something. So we're still trying to figure out maybe how to help in other pockets outside of the Twin City.
Thanks, Henry. Okay, other workforce thoughts or anything else to share about workforce? Keeping workforce in place is kind of the name of the game. Like the PPP is all about that. And unemployment insurance, is helping folks survive a little bit. But the idea that we want to keep our employees and not lose them, because can you imagine the kind of work Rachel would have to do if she was managing all of our job searches? I mean, really crazy. She wouldn't have that smile on her face, that's for sure.
No.
She might look more like B does right now.
If I could add one more thing, Paris, at LEDC, I used to, a few days ago, I used to say that our number of calls and intakes are increased by 500%. I probably think it's probably like 1,000% now. Being one of the certified lenders to deed for their small business emergency loan, we're getting over 200 applicants. And, the part that kind of hurts me is that, our mission is to focus on the Latino community. And as you can imagine, we're not just getting Latino businesses applying for this. And so it's hard for me to say, hey, our mission is Latino, so go to this other organization, and we're trying to help everybody. But if we just focus on the Latino community, we have too much work, even just, again, within our membership. But if you've done the PPP, if you've applied for that, if you're working with the bank, if you've done this, I almost want to encourage other business owners to find another business owner that has a hard time doing this and help them go through this. I think we almost have to adopt our own neighbor business so that our business next to us doesn't go out of business because of this. And LEDC staff members are not just spending the time helping folks apply for these funds, they're also helping them figuring out how to freaking use Zoom. This is how, it's like we're spending like an hour just trying to get the technology ready for them to be able to even start the application process. So if you know folks, please, you should also just be helping people at this point. That's my message. And by the way, the east side has never looked this good on my computer before. I like it.
I would just touch on that really quick. Paris and I, that's the reason why we wanted to put this call together today, is to try to gather as many people from the community as possible and share some resources, right, Paris? So we can kind of touch, because every one of us have a unique, different background and situation and experience that we can bring to the table. So Henry, that's kind of the reason for this, and we're hoping you guys want to do more of this, because if you do, then we're willing to, we're willing to show up and keep spreading the word out. So thank you for your contribution there.
Yeah, right on. I think this is also the power of a network like this, and I can't emphasize that enough, Henry. All of us have neighbors in businesses right next door. If we've got contact information, reach out and see how they're doing getting this stuff done. And if they're having issues or trouble, feel free to give them my email. Send them to ESABA and say, these folks are trying to help people figure out how to do this. We'll help kind of navigate people and their questions into some of the right points of contact. That's part of what we feel like our role really should be. So if you'll reach out, and connect with your neighbors, I think that's a fantastic thing for all of us to do. Regarding this, have they heard about? I'm surprised. We had some dialogue back and forth just via email. I'm surprised how many businesses haven't heard about these, even just the 3 programs we talked about right here: the SBA, economic injury, disaster relief program, the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program. There are businesses out there that haven't heard about those. The deed program that you're talking about, Henry, it seemed like it spread like wildfire, but there's still people that haven't heard about it. So we need to be reaching out and how folks are doing, and finding out if they've got needs, interests, or concerns that we could help them with. I want to shift gears just a little bit here, continue to take your programs or questions in the chat if folks want to reach back to any of these others. But a good example of this, I've been talking with our grocery stores on the east side that are trying to compete and stay open. And some of those grocery stores, you know, like I have had active conversation with folks from District 5 about, hey, tell us the grocery stores that are doing curbside or doing delivery, you know, who's doing this stuff so that we can support the local businesses in our neighborhood. And so I was asking some businesses about that, you know, how are you getting curbside going? Are you thinking about doing delivery? And frankly, I mean, that's a gigantic hill to climb. They just said, we don't have any idea. One business owner said, we don't have any idea how our store would actually be able to do that. I had an opportunity to talk to Kendall's Ace Hardware over on Payne, and they are doing that. Here's an example of, you know, an opportunity to say, and so I did. I connected those two folks together to say, one of your neighbors is trying to figure this out. How have you figured this out? That's one of the ways that we can help support each other. And so I wanted to ask you all if there are hills you're trying to climb to try to innovate in the new business as usual. What are some things that you're trying to get done that you're having a hard time figuring out how to do with your particular business? Maybe someone on the call is also working on that, or someone in our network, 120 small businesses, 120 businesses on the east side perhaps is working on that. So significant, you know, put something in the chat here if you're working on something or something you're trying to figure out. Alinda, you mentioned you're still open. I assume you're still open for takeout. Do you guys do delivery too?
Takeout. We don't have delivery. We haven't partnered with any company that it does the delivery because, you know, like as you know, we're you know, like the really accessible place to eat. You know, like our prices are like really accessible. So, and these partners, you know, like these delivery businesses charge 25% on, you know, on the purchase in order to do the delivery. So I was just like thinking, you know, like better for people, you know, like, and for us, just have people picking up, you know, the orders or whatever. Sure. We do partner with Eat Street. They take the orders online and then people come and pick it up.
Got it. And that's working. Eat Street's working. Okay. Are there other things that we're
called the store and you know, leave the orders and that's basically the way that we're doing it.
Well, Alinda, you know, the problem is Henry actually can't come to pick up right now. Can you get him a delivery? He's in Las Vegas and he's stuck there.
I wish I could.
You know, but there's still many ways. I mean, I actually think it's gonna be all of us that get us out of this. Nobody's gonna bail us out. It's gonna be us continuing to spend money in these businesses. At some point, I mean, I know, Perez, you've been talking about how do we increase just people recognizing that. I know a lot of people are working, I mean, making more food from home, but for once, you know, my wife and I, even if it's here in Las Vegas with my family, you know, we are actually trying to like intentionally, you know, buy stuff, you know, and not through Amazon. That's the thing. Stop buying shit from Amazon. And sorry for my language. Buy shit from your local people. Like, let's do that. Like, even if it costs you an extra $17 for the delivery, whatever it is, like, we need to start spending our own money in our own community. And I think that, I don't know if I'm hearing that enough, and I hope that we can do this more through ESABA and folks like you. So,
yeah, right on. This is part of what's tricky right now, for sure. So another thing that I don't know, William, I don't know if we've got other questions coming in.
We had the Southeast Community Organization just wanted to mention that they're also spreading the news through their social media about you know, connecting people together. So maybe all of us on this call, you can write down to find them on your Facebook, on your social media, and you know, anything that they post, you can share that. Betsy's also put her email there as well. So, you know, does anybody else have any stories or anything that they want to share that they're doing that's innovative? Or I work with local businesses.
Oh.
Let's see here. Oh, go ahead, Tanya.
Yeah, no, I'll share, you know, one thing that the Port Authority is doing, there's as we know, it's a scary time for everybody. There's a lot of uncertainty. And one thing that we are doing, and I think that is exciting, is there's a lot of unsung heroes on the east side of St. Paul right now that we don't really, but I think it's good, I mean, at least to take a moment and recognize, like, for example, we have, you know, Health Systems Cooperative Laundries right there off of Minnehaha that has got hundreds of workers showing up and being creative to make sure that our health systems are staying open and that, you know, and keeping our health, you know, healthcare systems alive. We have Vomella Industries that is their whole St. Paul manufacturing. They're actually taking some of their processes and they're manufacturing face shields right now. So the Port Authority is trying to, so one thing we're trying to do is also there's a lot of heaviness out there, but we also are trying to celebrate the success stories and the unsung heroes as well, and taking time to acknowledge that and doing stuff. You know, Paris, I hope we do more of this, and maybe we make it similar to like the Takeout Tuesday, and we make it a lunch and learn, and we're all ordering something from the east side and doing something to that extent, or, you know, but I just think, you know, I think it's good for us also to recognize, you know, those unsung heroes that are out there too.
I love it, Tanya. I love that we might all order something from an East Side restaurant and meet for lunch. That's great. That's totally great. I wanted to say, in addition, or in part, that from Deed's reporting, and this is going to sound strange because I keep looking around and wondering who this is, but apparently 82% of Minnesota is still working. You know, the critical and essential exemptions that are made for folks to continue to go to work. And maybe that includes all of us who are telecommuting too. I mean, maybe that's part of why that 82% is there. But we've had a request or question from the St. Paul area chamber about companies that we know who might want to be added back into that permission to work. The governor's chief of staff is really asking for input from organizations like ours. So I wanted to just see, you know, we've got restaurants that are working and still doing takeout. Have any of you heard from businesses who said, look, we'd love to be back on that permission to work. We think we could do it with social distancing and make a case for our industry or our business. Have anybody heard any comments from folks like that? Taylor, you're still in business. You're already on the essential list. Yeah. Anybody heard anything new from folks like that we should include?
I don't see anything.
Okay, that's one.
You know,
right.
I have a question maybe for a council member here. I'll mute you. Is there any updates on businesses being restaurants and bars being able to sell liquor? I know I saw a news blurb in that last week. Where's that situation at?
Great question.
We passed a resolution a week ago asking the governor to consider it for an executive order. We've also reached out to our East Side legislators. Obviously, the executive order would be the way to go because it would be much quicker. And as of now, we're working through the Minnesota Licensed Beverage Association, and it has not happened yet, but that would be a great thing to get to the governor and legislators to encourage them to move it forward. We're trying, and Angela Marlowe's pushing very hard up at the Capitol. So any support we can get for that, because I know how important it is.
So you,
sorry, William, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, what is it that we can do as a group? Who should we contact? Who should we talk to? Who could we push?
Well, I would say check in with Angela Marlowe and find out from her. I mean, I think we're trying to get it to the governor's attention. So I think if the chamber is telling us that the governor wants to hear about how they can be helping businesses at this time, that is definitely an important way. You know, Eric Foster had asked the other day if there was any way we could get past the, you know, have it be other than wine and beer. And Angela didn't think that we were going to have much luck with trying to get hard liquor to go. But wine and beer, I think, would still really help our businesses. So I'll put Angela's email on the chat.
How about this? I'll reach out to Angela and see if I can come up with an action item for us all, and then send that out to ESABA. Is that okay, William?
Sounds good.
Okay. Are there other unmet needs that we're feeling out there? And I'll surface one as an example. 501c6 nonprofits, of which ESABA is, are not eligible for any of these programs we just talked about. So that's an unmet need out there. Are there other unmet needs that you're finding or facing or you're hearing about from your colleagues or customers?
Paris?
Yes.
First Care Family Center and Sunray Shopping Center. My family made a donation recently, and their shelves are empty for diaper donations for families.
Okay. First Care Family Center.
Yes, they give a plethora of support to new families.
Got it.
And young families, and they give out diapers and needs that they would have, and they are totally decimated right now. I mean, they have a storage room in the back where they separate things in sizes, and it was empty.
Okay, good. So this is something we could be sharing on social media to encourage some donations there.
Yes.
Thank you, Yolanda. Other unmet needs, y'all?
Could you speak on the, or maybe Ben, one of you two, could you speak on the post that we posted about what the YMCA is offering with their food program right now? Someone want to talk about that?
Yeah, I can just mention that. Courtney Troyer and Eastside Y have got, and Y in general, have got 5,000 bags of food. They're working on just food distribution at the Eastside Y. So that's something, an opportunity for families. I've also just asked her if they need donations on the back end of that. You know, we've got grocery stores, again, that I was talking to this last week, that were looking for places that they could make donations. But I haven't heard back from Courtney on that.
Ben wanted to know, where again were the diapers needed at?
Yolanda, can you put it in the chat?
I think she's phoning in, maybe.
Yeah, I phoned in.
Oh, I see. I'll put it in
my
the chat.
My internet's not dependable right now.
Okay, no problem. I'll put it in there. Other unmet needs?
We have another comment here from Matt real quick that says, could be benefit to any business offering takeout to go, needing aid in furthering phone ability. There are many affordable second number phone apps, web-based apps, Google Voice, Burner, etc. to help maintain business volume for people.
Okay.
First Care Family Center and Sunray Shopping Center needs diapers and pull-ups. Okay. You guys hear that? It's First Care Family Center and Sunray Shopping Center.
In the chat.
Perfect.
So finally, here's the other, our last order of business essentially is to say, how fun was this? Should we do this again? Everybody get takeout. And what kinds of topics should we be working on talking about next time? Are there things that you think are hot? One idea that William and I had talked about is figuring out how you're doing marketing right now to business that might not be moving in the regular ways that you are used to finding it. Maybe William want to say more about that topic. But yeah. What ideas do you have for a future call and when we do it?
Yeah, what we could talk about is how our organizations and our businesses could be using social media and other marketing avenues to get your word out for your business. Quick example, I have a side business where I do video photography. One of my clients owns a boxing gym that just opened up in December. It's a boxing, and it's a 24-hour fitness center. So it's like Anytime Fitness meets boxing. And he just opened up in December, all right? Brand new, spanking brand new. And you can smell the new car smell when you walk in there. And now he's out of business. And instead of complain and sulk, he's been on Facebook and Instagram every single day doing workouts 3 or 4 times a day live.
Right. Yep.
And that's the way he's staying connected to his customers and and building his network. So we will talk about some of those kind of things, where how some of our businesses out here, how you can use social media and alternative marketing opportunities for that. So,
And if I can you hear me?
absolutely.
Yep, Taylor.
And something also that you might want to noodle on from a marketing perspective, and maybe come up with some ideas between now and then, would be to see how you can sort of give with both hands to the people that you are serving in a new and different way. What we're working on right now at Mueller Memorial is an online resource so that people can do something like this, like a Zoom call, in order to host a memorial service themselves. So it's actually something that kind of could make us obsolete, but it won't. But it's a way to serve people at this time. And that's actually a piece of content marketing if you look at it that way. Because what we're doing is we're saying, we're all in a bad situation here. We want to serve you. So we're coming up with it's a really sophisticated program, but easy to use. And so just thinking about that, and like in your business, what can you do that maybe normally you wouldn't do because it diverts business from you. But like if you own a restaurant, you can say like, here's how to make this, like, and get involved and get people, sell them the product in a basket, and then do an Instagram live where you cook with them and you teach them how to do it. There's a bunch of different things that you can do that are just counterintuitive in normal business circumstances, but we're not in normal business circumstances. So just a thought to have, think about that and kind of maybe work on that and bring it back to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Paris, we have some suggestions here in our box. Just we have Eli here. It says very small businesses working with people to get classes online, but they're still not making money they were, but still this is great info to share with them. Another one from Jack for a future call with ESABA is maybe talk about nonprofits, since we do have a lot of nonprofits, and what are their resources. So maybe between now and then, figuring out what are some resources for nonprofits. And then Eli Winter had another one to say, sharing solutions that are currently working would be great, he says.
It's Ellie.
Ellie, I'm sorry.
So over at Dellwood Gardens, what we're doing is we're trying to work with interim right now. So a lot of assisted living communities have closed their doors due to COVID-19, and they're not accepting admissions. And we know that we have a lot of people in the community that need those services. And unfortunately at this time, we're not able to provide those. So Dellwood's working with interim healthcare on trying to figure out how we can maybe provide physical therapists or people to go into just one-on-one with a resident in their home to kind of help them and keep them moving until assisted livings get to a point where they can start to accept admissions again. So if anyone knows of someone who's in their home, it is unsafe, please let me know and I can reach out and try to coordinate something for them.
Nice. That seems like an East Side Elders connection. Lindsay, have you already made that connection with them and Northeast Elders?
Yes, so I did reach out. I haven't had a response back yet, but it's pretty recent.
Okay.
So I'm going to try to reach out to Eastside Elders again here after interim and I have a chance to connect again, just more around logistics.
Totally makes sense. Okay, cool.
That's all we got in the chat box right now.
All right. So I'm hearing couple things. One, this innovative connection piece between William, Taylor, Ellie, and others. Like, how do we make business happen in this no business as usual, new business as usual, might be an interesting topic. And the other thing I'm hearing is about ESABA nonprofit businesses and other nonprofits on the East Side. What are we doing? How are we doing it? How do we hang together, and what resources are available for us? So those are two potentially different calls we could make.
Yeah,
I have a suggestion as well, Paris. Also during this time, there's also some other silver linings as people are home, or maybe there's some programs that they could take advantage as far as utilizing this downtime to scale up with their training, such as, the dislocated worker program within Ramsey County, or other different tools and programs that may be out there So when the time and people are jumping back into the workforce, they're upskilled in different ways. And I know that there's other programs, and maybe there's some way that we can layer in that, because even as some of our businesses may have had to let go of employers, or there's displacement, there may be some other programs to offer as a resource or to fill gap in time in that space, and also be an asset and added value to people.
I love it. Yeah, those sound like fun things for us to look forward to. Well, what do we think about doing a call? Do we think we want to do this every week? We think we want to do this in 2 weeks? What do you all think about
your chat box? What are you guys looking at? Because we can save this chat box and then review 1 week, 2 weeks, or 4 weeks. 1, 2, or 4. What do you guys think?
1, 2, or 4?
We got 1 1. We got a 2 weeks. We got a 2. We got bi-weekly. And are you guys okay with the time then? 2 o'clock? Is that working? That's after lunch.
So there was a suggestion about 2 o'clock. I thought 2 o'clock would work well for restaurant owners, and I hope that fits well. I see Alinda nodding a little bit. But 2 o'clock is also when the governor comes on and does his press conference. He's got his daily press conference thing right at 2. Does that affect whether we do this at 2 o'clock? What do you all think? Yeah, Jack, I see you just commented on that. Krista brought that up earlier too.
Most people want 2 weeks, and how long is the governor's thing? It seems like it's getting shorter each week.
But it's every day at 2 o'clock. We could do 2:30. Yeah. Well, how do you think about 2:30, people? Yeah, Lindsay says 2:30. 2:30 sound good? 2:30 still work for you? Yeah, that would still work for restaurants too. We're kind of in
my buddy here from New York he jumped another call from LinkedIn, so he wanted to share something real quick here.
Okay.
I'll go ahead. Wait, there you go. You're unmuted.
Hey, how's it going? So I actually work with local businesses like restaurants and medical spas, dental offices and car washes. And so one thing we're doing with a restaurant is we're creating a subscription product. It's like, so people are now have to cook dinner, right? They're used to ordering takeout. So what we're doing is a meal plan. They don't have to worry about ordering ever again. They just buy into subscription, and we'll deliver a meal every 6 o'clock every day, or like 5 days a week. And we're doing it with the high-end restaurant, and it's actually working pretty well. We're promoting it through Facebook and Instagram, and we're getting a ton of people subscribed. Another thing we're doing with a medical spa is we're doing virtual consultations, and we're getting appointments with deposits for a couple months in advance, so they're the first ones to like be in line, because once this whole thing is over, spas are going to be booming, right? A lot of these businesses are going to be booming. So we're getting appointments with deposits, that we're getting some cash flow even when they're still closed right now. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Make sure you put your email in there, so if anybody wants to contact you further about how you can help them get set up with their business, they can contact you.
Shanta, I also just said, hey, for that high-end restaurant subscription program, give us the Facebook lead on that, and people can go check it out and just see what we're talking about. Or the spa thing too. Like, tell us where to go find them on Facebook, and we'll go look at that stuff. And so those are great ideas. All right, so 2 weeks is what I'm hearing. 2 weeks, 2:30. 2 weeks, 2:30. Let me blast. What do you think, everybody? You like Thursdays?
It's good.
Okay, 2 weeks, 2:30. It's Thursdays. All right. Well, that's great. Totally fun. Any final anything you want to put in the chat? Anybody? While you're thinking about that, I just want to say thank you so much to ESABA's board members. If you're an ESABA board member, wave your hand right now. Say hi. William, Shatika, Darren, Taylor, Tanya, Steve, Mark. A lot of us on Randy. A lot of us on this call. That's great. Did I miss anybody? I think that's all. Thank you so much, city VIPs, council members' offices, I saw Tong Tao on here a while back too. Tong looks like he's gone. Anyway, thank you very much. Wave to those folks. Thanks, you guys. Thanks very much. If you are one of our guests from today, B. Rachel, thank you so much for being on the call. Really appreciated you being here. ESABA sponsors Sunrise Bank, St. Paul Federal, St. Paul Port Authority. I may be forgetting. DV Creative. Thank you, Darren. Thanks, you guys. Totally great. And then small businesses, you all who are doing this work and making good things happen, we appreciate you so much. Thank you, Warm Winter Arts and Delwood Gardens and Taqueria Los Paisanos and everybody else. Who am I forgetting anybody? No, maybe not. Oh, Cadence. Yeah, we love you guys. Thanks everybody for being on the call. Nonprofits, hey, you're great out there too. We love you, nonprofits. Thanks, Shatika and MSS and Jack. Thanks for joining the call. We totally should do this for nonprofits. We totally should do this for nonprofits. Let's work on getting that done. All right, I think we're there. Ben, hey guy, how are you? There you are. That's an ESABA volunteer right there.
Hey y'all.
On the call.
You're doing what you do.
Totally great. Okay, everybody, thanks for joining. We'll post something and be looking for where we're doing this again. And as always, send folks our way if they've got questions or need support. Thanks for being on, everyone. We'll sign out. Thanks, William.
Bye, everybody.
Aaron.
Stay safe.
Thanks.
Right on.